Major support provided by Chevron, the Kern County Superintendent of Schools, Edison International, Valley Strong Credit Union, California Resources Corporation, Panama Buena Vista Union School District, Bakersfield City School District, and the Kern High School District, with additional production assistance provided by these supporters of education in Kern County and throughout the state of California.
It is time, once again, for a little math in the real world. We love those numbers, but we want to see how they actually affect us in real life, right? So today, we're at Baker's Outpost, and I can't express to you how wonderful it smells in here, but I'm letting you know that Laura Journey, the owner, is going to let us know a little bit more about this bakery. Laura, you own this place. What an amazing place. How in the heck did you start to be a professional baker?
It started years ago.
Okay.
From a very young age, my grandmother instilled in me that we should know how to bake and how to work our way around the kitchen. So from a very young age, I started with banana bread, which is what you're smelling today.
Oh,
I
it
made
smells
fresh
wonderful.
this morning.
Yeah.
Fast forward quite a few years, I met my now husband in Vancouver. When we came down here, there was very few options for bread.
Right.
I had previously gotten into sourdough baking before we left to move down to Bakersfield. After I had my kids, I was needing something to keep my hands a little more busy than just mothering, and so Baker's Outpost was born. And we saw a need that needed to be filled in the community, and we came across the Tehachapi Grain Project up in Tehachapi.
Okay.
And so we decided to take that and focus on whole grains and locally sourced goods, which is what our community and our county is a bounty for. So
Right. So, but tell me a little bit about the difference between, because I completely agree with you. We should know how to make our own food. We should know what goes into our food, right? And so what is the main difference? Again, very silly, basic question. What's the main difference between a loaf of bread that I buy in the store that's all wrapped up in plastic and all sliced up for me and something that you make? Because your product is really unique and better for us, right?
Yeah. So what we are doing here is old world tradition. To me, it's honoring the ingredients. So we're taking locally grown grains, literally flour, water, and salt. So you've got 3 ingredients, and we like to say that we create magic with it.
No doubt.
Yeah, through the process of fermentation, you are left with a very highly digestible and nutrient-dense product. Whereas, of course, when you look at the back of a store-bought loaf of bread, there's about like 17 ingredients that you don't know what they are.
I can't even pronounce this one. I don't know what it does.
Yeah, why we're putting all these vitamins back into our food that we've stripped out. Using very just plain white flour. So what we're doing is just trying to create a very nutrient-dense and highly digestible. It's shelf-stable a lot longer than your average loaf of bread. And
oh, that's super exciting. Okay, we're going to get into math in a little bit, but right before we do that, if you had one thing to bake, what would you bake? I mean, obviously banana bread's smelling real good, but what would be your choice?
For me, it would probably be rye bread.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, the depth of flavor, the nutrient-dense aspect of it.
Yeah.
It's just hearty.
And it's a very unique taste, no doubt about that. Yeah.
Not everybody's cup of tea, but
Right.
we transformed a lot of people's mindsets about
changed their
rye.
mind.
Yeah,
Well done.
absolutely.
It's amazing here at Baker's Outpost, and we want to know a little bit more about Baker's math, because as amazing as math is, Baker's math is even more interesting. So Laura, take it away. What are we going to talk about here? Because I am so curious about how this all goes down, because whatever math it takes to make this smell, this is what I want to know.
Yeah, so knowing Baker's math, is wonderful because it helps you scale recipes. You can actually, once you grasp it, create your own recipes.
Okay.
Being able to scale up, scale down. You can go into, like last episode, we talked a lot about fractions, taking things in half, doubling recipes. It's a very unique way to scale percentages from the total flour. Flour in baker's math is always 100%.
Yeah, that's pretty important stuff. Okay.
Yeah. So any recipe you have, your flour is always your constant 100%, and then you scale everything else in relation to that.
Okay.
So a few years ago, we touched a bit about percentages to weights, and today we're going to take weights and figure out percentages.
Awesome. Can you give us an example? I'm curious about how this all goes down. All right.
So first, I'm going to show you calculating from percentages to weight.
Okay.
So here we're going to do percentages to weight. So in a standard, I'm going to do a standard sourdough recipe just because that's where my brain is usually at.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So we've got our flour, which is at 100%. Hydration, H2O, water. I keep that at about 82%, which is considerably high. Your average store-bought bread sits at about 40 to 50% hydration, maybe.
Right.
The levain, or the starter, which is what gives the bread the life, I keep that at roughly 20%, which that varies up and down throughout the seasons. It goes higher during the winter, lower during the summer. And then salt, we keep at about 2%. So when we have these percentages and we figure out what we want everything at, I'll see how much dough do I need. So if I need 1,500 grams, which I will say this is the total dough weight.
Okay.
We're gonna go figuring out from that. So calculating weight of any ingredient, we can use the weight of the ingredient equals the percentage of the ingredient. Sorry, my spelling. Times the weight of the flour.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
Over 100.
Okay.
So here we are saying that we need to figure out, we're getting 1,500 grams total dough weight. We need to figure out the weights here. So the weight of the ingredients, which I just realized I'm going to need the calculator likely to do this.
No problem at all.
So the weight of the water, we're going to figure that out. So weight of water.
Okay.
You take that, so it's 82%, and we need to find, we're taking the 1,500 grams, the weight of the flour.
Okay.
And then we are doing that over 100, which is what I just realized. I don't actually know it's going to be like 11.
Not a problem at all. So mathematically, we can just cancel out all these zeros, right? And really what we're doing is 82 times 15, and I just pulled that for you, and that's 1,230. So that's kind of what we're looking at right there. So and that's the amount of grams, right?
There you go. So we are figuring out the weight of the water.
The weight of the water.
Yeah, so the weight of the water, you're taking the percentage, multiplying it by the total amount of flour needed over 100.
And I like the way you explain this, because when I look at these percentages and I add them all up together, I go, wait a minute, we're at 204%, right?
Which is what the whole, when I touched upon it a few years ago, I think it was like, well, how do you have over 200%?
This, to a mathematical person, goes, how can you have 204% of a loaf of bread? But what you've done here is wonderful, because now we're talking about the percent of overall and the percent of the weight of the dough, right? And this is how much water you're going to get. That makes sense to me, and I like the way you explain that.
There we go.
Well done.
So then we can go through it and plug it in each one. So if you're trying to figure out the weight of your levain here.
Sure. Let's say we're trying to do the salt, right? We could just do this, right?
Yeah.
Because instead of 82%, we'd have 2%, right?
Yeah.
These would cancel out, the zeros would cancel out, and 2 times 15 is 30. You'd have 30 grams of water, right? So that would work out pretty quickly.
Yes.
And we could find out the water, and then we could find out, of course, the flour. The flour would be a pretty easy one to do as well, because
so
this would be 100,
right?
And that would be 100, and you'd have 1,500 grams of flour. So I like the way that you've done this with the percentages, and they make a lot more sense to me now.
Right.
Because the percentages in other problems don't always add up to 204%. Wow, how interesting.
So
and then if you wanted to adjust this, recipe to make, I don't know, 2 loaves of bread or 5 loaves of bread, you could multiply the percentages. Or multiply the total dough weight. Yeah, there you go.
You can have 1,200 grams of total dough weight,
Right.
and then you would just take that and you just move all the numbers
So many
around.
ways to manipulate this.
Yeah, so
And-
it's great. So you really can just scale up and down
Right.
to whatever your needs are, and it
Sure.
makes things a lot
Sure.
lot
And as a
easier.
baker, there's a little bit of experimentation in there, I'm sure. So you can try it one way, and if it's not quite what you want, you can try it a little different way.
constantly tweaking, even just 1% of your hydration or 0.5%.
Yeah.
The levain will go up and down a couple of percent. The salt generally always stays about 2 to 2.2%.
Sure.
But yes, the hydration and the levain are those two ingredients that are constantly moving around.
Yeah.
And this is what we were touching on a few years ago for percentages to weight. And so now it would be really fun to go taking weights and
Yeah.
figuring out percentages.
We'll see if we can do that. When we come back, we want to see if we can go the opposite direction if we're not too distracted by the amazing smells here at the bakery. And there's a little bit more. No, there's actually a lot more math to do here at Baker's Outpost. So we are looking forward to. Now we have to go the reverse direction of where we went last time. Laura, take it away. I'm excited about this one. Here we go.
So this is the exciting little bit of a reverse from what we were just doing, the percentages to weight.
So we're going weight to percentages now.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
let's
if
do
you
it.
see a recipe with weight,
Yeah.
we're going to show you and give you some formulas to figure out the percentages of each ingredient.
Sure.
So I'm just going to give you a recipe here. We're going to say 423 grams of bread flour and 106 grams of, let's say, just an all-purpose flour.
Oh, okay.
That's our abbreviation.
So you've
in
already
the
measured out these
bakery
things, and we
here.
want to know the percentages of the
Yeah,
overall.
yep. So 354 grams of water and 106 grams of levain, which is starter and those kinds of things. And this, we won't get into today, hopefully next episode, but it actually will go further on calculating if your levain has a different hydration. If it's not at 100% water and flour, then it actually has a bit of a different calculation to go about, because you have to take into consideration also the percentages in the levain.
Sure.
All right, so here we've got a bread recipe. Like I said, flour is always 100%. So we have 2 flours here. So we need to add 423 and 106, which is 529.
Well done.
529 grams. So we know now we've got our flour weight. So the formula that we have is going to be the percentage of the ingredient equals 100 times the weight of the ingredient
Okay, yeah.
over the flour weight, which was 529
Oh, I gotcha.
grams
Okay.
there.
So before we had the 100 on the bottom, and this was on the top, and it makes sense because we're going the opposite direction now.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
So if we want to plug all that in, so to find out the percentage of the ingredient, you're going to take 100 times the weight of the ingredient. So we are going to figure out, let's do the water. Percentage of the water equals 100 times the weight of the ingredient, which was 354. And we're going to put that over 529, which leaves us with 67%.
It does list me at 67%. I gotcha.
There
Okay,
you
so
go.
there's your percentage of water, and if you needed to go back the other direction, you'd already have the percentage of water. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and then we can go on using the exact same formula here. So if we have our salt here, the percentage of salt is equal to 100, and we're going to go back over to our weight, which was 11 grams.
All right, yeah.
Over 529 grams, and that leaves us with like 2.1% if we want to round up.
Yeah.
I believe that 7 pushes it up to a 1 there. And so there we go. There we can take each ingredient, weight, doesn't matter what it is, and we will find out the percentage in relation.
Right. And being able to go back and forth depending on which stage you are in baking is important, because you might know some variables on one side and need to go the other direction, or you might know how much weight of something you have here, you got to go back to the percentages. Either way, it's good to know both directions, and we always talk about that in math, especially when you're doing some, I don't know, maybe division problems. To check that problem, you want to do some multiplication, right?
Yeah.
When you're doing some division or some multiplication problems, to check it, you can do division. There's always a way to go back and forth in all the aspects of math.
Well, and the great thing too is that it will also show you the relation of each ingredient in, so you can automatically look at, you know, say a brioche dough that's going to be heavy, enriched with butter and eggs and milk and those kinds of things. So you can look at the amount of that and automatically know this is an enriched dough, not a sourdough, because it has all these additional ingredients into it.
Oh, look at that. Do the math. Look at that. We are so excited for you to share your talents and experience and excitement about baking with us once again. So, a Do the Math tile just for you. Thanks again for your time. Wow, I learned a lot. I think it was pretty cool. And you know, we'll be back here again, because there's a ton more math to do in the real world in general, but especially in the bakery place. And you know what? I love being outdoors, but the smell in here, again, I just can't get over that part. It smells wonderful in here. Good place to do it.